Hello everyone and welcome back to another very special in-person episode of the Smart Money Show. My name is Noman and as usual I'm joined by Ali Sulman. How's things going, bro?
I'm good, tired. It's Friday, end of a busy week. Obviously we drove down to London today, but why don't you tell us, our viewers and listeners, where we actually are?
Yeah, so today we're actually at BDO's offices in London, and this is only possible because of one of our guests today. And we'll get onto that in a bit. Actually, Ali, who do we have on today?
Yeah, 100%. So, very, very, very pleased to be joined today by Riyadh Rehman and Sahil Shahzad. So before we welcome them onto the podcast and get into the nitty-gritty of a lot of things, these are two driven individuals in both finance and social mobility. So Riyadh is the founder of Young Asians in Finance, or YAF for short, a non-profit organisation dedicated to advocating for young Asian engagement and representation in the finance industry, helping connect aspiration with opportunity. He currently studies politics at Queen Mary University of London, but he also took a gap year to gain hands-on experience, which led to roles at Greenhill & Co. and Morgan Stanley, which then translated to a further incoming spring internship at Morgan Stanley in investment banking, and he was also recently recognised as the Sutton Trust Social Mobility Activist of the Year in 2024. And our second guest for today, we're pleased to have too, is Sahil Shahzad. So he's a COO of Young Asians in Finance. He started as a lead youth ambassador, but he worked his way up to lead the organisation's initiatives and events behind the scenes. He initially considered university, which we're going to get into, I assure you, but he chose the apprenticeship route during his gap year and is now an audit trainee at BDO, which allowed us to get this amazing venue for today. And he's balancing full-time work while studying for his ACA qualification. He's a passionate advocate for apprenticeships, and he is dedicated to showing students alternative paths into financial services. So, what we're talking about in this episode, we'll be diving into their journeys, breaking into finance, the power of social mobility, apprenticeships versus traditional university, and their advice for students looking to navigate their own career paths. So that was a very long intro, but you both deserve it very much. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Riyadh and Sahil onto the podcast. How are you guys doing?
Thank you very much. We're doing good. Yeah. It's lovely to be back on the pod again.
Yeah.
We were here last year. I was here last year without Sahil. But I'm glad to be joined by the lovely COO now.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
So obviously some of our old episode 12, you were on. It was actually, I remember seeing one of your posts on LinkedIn, which you guys are big on. I was like, I've reached out. You know, we were just up and coming then. We just got our first professional guest on. We were like, you know what, we need some accomplished students on. We need to cover diversity, we need to cover social mobility. And it's translated into what? A media partnership on your apprenticeship awareness campaign. You've attended our events, we've attended yours, and now it's culminated in another episode, but the first one under the new rebrand. And really looking forward to get into it. So Noman, do you want to kick things off? First question.
So I'm going to start with you then, Riyadh. We're going to start by talking about your early interest in finance. So what was it like growing up, and what's your education journey been like?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Birmingham, which, as you know,
big up.
Big up Birmingham, Midlands, isn't it? There's a massive Asian population in Birmingham. So I was surrounded by Asians, literally left side, right side, across the road, everyone. Everyone in my primary school, were either Sikh, Muslim, whatever.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Birmingham, and then I moved to London when I was 7. So quite early on, really. But here, really, in London is where I'd say I found myself, to be honest. And, you know, working in London, I lived just across the river from Canary Wharf, actually. So Canary Wharf was always sort of in the background.
Yeah.
And my dad actually works in recruitment for finance. So he was sort of my first glimpse into what finance was. Because before that, I mean, when you're a kid, what do you want to work as? You want to be like an astronaut or something?
Yeah.
I did want to be an astronaut for a little while, to be honest, but that dream died out really quickly when I realised there's more money to be made elsewhere on Earth. So, my first introduction to finance was really through my dad. But where I actually come to sort of understand finance and develop a passion and interest for it was, I'd say, more so towards the tail end of my secondary school career. That's when I heard about a program called the Sutton Trust Pathways to Banking and Finance program. Actually, through Sahil, I heard about it, and I signed up to it. Didn't really think much of it, but thankfully got onto it. And then, you know, through the Sutton Trust Pathways to Banking and Finance program, I got, you know, a really good in-depth insight into what, you know, finance was all about, from all the different sectors of finance. You know, IB, audit, what Sahil does, accountancy, etc. And that's sort of where I started to, you know, narrow down on my path to pursue investment banking.
And then, yeah, what about yourself then, Sahil? What was your education journey like, and how did you really first start thinking about finance then?
Yeah, of course. So a bit boring compared to Riyadh. I just had a traditional route: primary school, secondary school, sixth form, in London, of course. But I'd say I grew up in Peckham, a very diverse area. A lot of the people around there was a lot of colour in there, and that's what grew me into like underrepresentation, because I've seen shops there, I've seen like retails there as well, and you can see there was a lot of underrepresentation. Now it's a lot more better, and even in schools as well, there was a lot of diversity in the school, and that's what allowed me to like understand what diversity is. Now I know I'm going off topic, but yeah. So in secondary school, I did find out a bit more about finance because of my maths teacher, Mr. Ali. He's a ex-finance professional. He was an accountant, and I was a naughty kid in secondary school. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. How naughty are we talking?
2-hour detentions every week.
Oh, man. Are you not advocating for that, right?
No. Be good in school, guys. Be good. Yeah, no. And I remember in one of my 2-hour detentions, he sat there and he phoned my mum, and he was like, "Oh, your son has been very talkative in lessons, and he's not really learning much, and I hope you can have a word with him." And I was like, "Oh, come on, Mr. Ali, like, why are you calling my mum in front of me, innit?" And then he just started to talk about his career, and he started talking about his sister, how she made it from the bottom, and now she's like a manager and a senior manager. At that time, I don't know what she is right now, but she's a senior manager at an accounting firm. And then he was just telling me about his past role, how he started from how I was as well. He used to be naughty, and then he got into his career. And it sort of gave me inspiration, to be honest. Like, if I'm like this right now, like, I really thought, oh, I'm not really gonna make it. Like, I don't have any dreams. I don't have any career aspirations at the moment. And from there on, I always respected him. I never messed around in his lessons anymore.
Because he gave you the time of day, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, any other teacher would just sit there on their laptop, answering emails, making slides for their next class. But he fully sat there with me for 2 hours. Started talking to me about a lot of things, educating me, and I remember on the last day of year 11, he said, "This world is very small. Who knows if it will speak again?"
Wow.
2 years later, 2 years later, after sixth form, that's when I got onto LinkedIn and I connected with him, and I messaged him and he forgot about me. I was like, wait, hold on a minute. I thought I was your favorite student. No, then he remembered and he was like, "Oh, we should go for a coffee chat. Like, I want to know how you're doing." And that's when I also introduced YEF to him, and he gave me tips and advice on my applications for apprenticeships, because I took a gap year after year 13, and that helped a lot. And he was one of the like leading figures in my life in terms of where I am right now. So yeah, shout out to Mr. Ali. Then obviously sixth form hit, and that's when I was thinking about finance. And what naturally sparked my interest in finance is my family members. They're all in accounting, they're all in finance as well, and there's just conversations around finance in the family. So I'm naturally hearing about these things. So I'm going to be curious about it, search it up, see what it's about. And like Riyadh said, the Sutton Trust pathways to banking and finance. I found out about that through careers fair. I spoke to someone, and then I knew Riyadh was interested in finance as well. So I was like, "Oh, Riyadh, why don't you sign this up? Let's go together." And it was a good thing. It was during like when we couldn't go to the university, so it was all online because of COVID. But we did learn a lot of things about like different sectors like IB, audit, asset management, private equity, etc. He got his work experience from there. I've got my work experience from there. We even went to University of Warwick, where we connected with like students as well. And funny enough, one of the graduates here was one of the like volunteers for Pathways Banking and Finance. So yeah, I know. And I was speaking to him about it, and I was like, I recognize you. And he was like, "Yeah, I was doing a Pathway Banking and Finance." Obviously, he didn't recognize me. So it gave me a message. I was like, oh, I need to build up my personal brand. But yeah, just learning about it, and then early interest into finance. That's how it started. I don't want to get into like how I got into an apprenticeship yet, so I'm just gonna save it.
No, sweet. That was a great answer to the first question, and you've answered a lot of the future question, which was like whether a particular moment. You said your father about recruitment, and then obviously yourself, Mr. Ali, as well. So I'm glad we got into that. I think I want to ask one more question actually on this topic. It's just a way we like to preface the episode. Give it a nice, add a bit of color to the picture before we really start getting going. But what misconceptions did you have about the industry? Let's talk about financial services broadly, not just IB. But obviously it wasn't always IB, it was just finance for a while. So what misconceptions did you have, and when you were first starting out, and how did you clear them up? Have you cleared them up? Do you still kind of recently had some? Riyadh, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'll go first, and I actually cleared this up quite recently within myself.
Yeah.
So it's a recent revelation to myself, but I thought finance meant I had to be a maths wizard, and I've come to realize that's absolutely not true. Partly through speaking to people first of all, but also just getting more of an insight into what the sort of careers in finance actually entail. I mean, of course, there's definitely parts of finance which are much more technical, which require you to be a bit more savvy with maths. But just because you might not maths might not be your strong suit doesn't mean that a career in finance is withdrawn from you. So I'd say I came to realize that after year 13. So to give some context. For year 13, I did, for A-levels, I did English literature, maths, and economics. So it's quite a diverse spread of things. And econ and English, I used to fly in them. It was easy for me. But maths was always the one that used to stick me a little bit. And I think it's partly because I found it hard, so then I didn't want to try in it. And then it's just that sort of negative cycle. But maths sort of tripped me up a little bit in year 13. And I didn't do really well. On A levels in maths. I did quite bad actually. I'd say.
Same here as well. That as well.
Exactly. We're all in the same boat.
And look, I was sitting here.
Noman's not in that boat. Let's not bring him in. He's smashed it.
It's alright. But
And so it was post year 13, and I was like, I didn't do good in maths. Is this career path really going to work out for me? So that kind of egged me on partly to take my gap year, and I did end up retaking maths, and I put a lot of effort into it, and thankfully I got a much better grade, which consequently helped me to get into a better uni, etc. But during my gap year, I came to realize that perhaps it wasn't as necessary as I thought, because when I spoke to managing directors at MS, they've done land economy, or they've done geography, or they've studied history, philosophy, etc.
But at the time, you're like, everything's got to be finance,
I'm like,
right?
It has to be accounting, finance, it has to be economics, it has to be something like that. And that actually encouraged me to sort of switch the degree discipline that I wanted to do. So originally I applied for economics, and I was dead set on doing econ, but I came to realize it might not really fit the skills that I have. And that's what sort of encouraged me to lean into the skills that I do have. And now, thankfully, I study politics.
Enjoying it?
I'm enjoying it so much. It's so much more interesting, and there's so many more overlaps with like what's going on in the world, what's going on with markets, etc. And that gives you such a strong suit and a strong footing in finance as well as other careers. So I'd say that's the biggest learning curve for me, realizing that you don't need to be a maths wizard to do finance.
Cold.
Yeah.
I'm going to spin the same question to you, Sahil. So what misconceptions did you have? And especially now that you're actually in the unique position that you're working within finance as an audit trainee, have you cleared up any misconceptions in the last few months?
So I just want to add on to Riyadh's point first. Obviously, you don't need to be like amazing at maths to flourish in the finance industry. And I've experienced that hands-on here, actually. Like, the maths in audit is very simple. It's literally adding numbers, subtracting numbers, dividing numbers, and doing like population samples and all of that calculation. So it's quite simple. And then also with my studies, there isn't like mechanic questions in A-level maths. Literally, you won't see.
Don't remind me.
You won't see pulleys. You won't see all of this. Obviously, there's a bit of statistics in that, which is normal, but it's very simple maths. Literally, very simple maths. Timesing, subtracting, adding. So you don't need to be like a maths magician to be working in finance. Now, a common misconception that I found, especially within accounting, is that it's very boring, and it's just like how do I say it? Like, you're just doing one thing and it's very repetitive. Now, I know I'm not, I am doing accounting, but I'm doing auditing. What I'm doing is very different. Like, every single day, you're not going to be doing the same thing. Yes, you're on an Excel spreadsheet, but you're doing different things. So, for example, you could be working with numbers one day, then you could be working with like different PDF files or case studies and whatnot. Because essentially, as an auditor, you're looking at their financial accounts to verify if it's accurate, reliable, and complete. So obviously, in their accounts, they're not just having numbers; they also have stories about themselves, what their board is, and all sorts. So that's why, like, I don't see it as repetitive. And also, you have hands-on with engaging with the clients. So you could, like, I've been in client calls by myself, and at first I was thinking, I'm a bit scared. Like, I don't know how to do this. It's my first time. But after like my seniors helping me, I've realized, like, no, like, you can do it. You just have to be confident. And yeah, I genuinely don't find it boring yet. I'm just saying yet. It's only first year, so yeah, like, everything's different every day. I don't know how IB is, so I'm sure Riyadh can add a bit more onto that if you know.
Well, we'll get into it. Yeah,
I'd say that's a big misconception that I had, that accountancy was boring. It's kind of why I ruled it out quite early on. But like, hearing Sahil talk about his job, hearing what he does here at BDO, sometimes it makes me second guess if I take the right choice.
No, you can't do that. Yeah.
But I say IB is the one for me.
Yeah, no, everyone's got different preferences.
Yeah.
But
I need to add on to that as well about accounting. So there's production accounting, there's forensic accounting, and all sorts, right?
Yeah.
See, family members are doing production accounting. They're flying out every single month to different countries.
Wow.
Like, come on now, that's not boring.
That's
Like,
not,
imagine, like, you're going to Spain here, you're going to that country, etc., etc. It's quite fun, and you're seeing, like, films being shot. Yeah, you're working with numbers, but it's a good experience to have, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you did kind of put IB in a different boat, but then a lot of PA investment bankers are former PA, like, auditors, and they work in accounting. So it's actually very simple. And so the work in itself isn't really rocket science, like the maths. It isn't easy, but it isn't rocket science either. But what really matters is those sales skills, because that's what they really look for long term. But anyways, now that was a great start to this episode and the first section of the episode. But then we're going to move on to more talking about how you go. Sahil, you picked apprenticeships, and you Riyadh yourself, you're of course university. So I'm gonna stick with you then, Sahil.
Yeah.
Could you talk a bit more about why you took your gap year then?
Okay, so year 13, let me give a bit of a story time. Year 13, I attended a careers fair, and this was a different careers fair to the Sutton Trust one. And I spoke to this person working at, he's a recruitment for HSBC.
Yeah.
And I saw a poster saying apprenticeships, and I was, what's an apprenticeship? See, he explained it, what it is. You're working full time while studying for a degree. It's all paid for. Compared to university, you don't have any student loans or any debts to pay back, etc. I was thinking, oh wow, that actually appeals to me, and it aligns with, like, my beliefs as well. Obviously, Islam, interest in Haram, and I'm quite fearful of taking a loan, whether it's like student loan or any other loan. So I was like, okay, let me look a bit more into it. But I was obviously sixth form. They were emphasizing UCAS applications a lot.
We're gonna get into that as well.
And I didn't really have time to focus on apprenticeships. I was focusing on my personal statement. What unis am I going to be applying to? Am I going to get this offer? Am I going to get this offer? Do my parents want me to go not go to university? Do they want me to do an apprenticeship instead? Obviously, they didn't know about an apprenticeship. I'm going to get into what my parents said as well after. I applied to, like, UBS, HSBC, JP Morgan, just the bigger firms, for, like, global banking. Did Goldman Sachs apprenticeship as well. Got no response, so I gave up. And I was like, okay, let me just focus on my A levels. It's quite late now. Come results day, didn't do that well, to be honest. And I was like, do I really want to go university? Like, I'm not. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. So I was like, okay, let me speak to my parents. I'm gonna take a gap year. They were fuming. They were fuming. Like, why are you taking a gap year? You're not gonna go university. Look at your brother. He graduated. Like, I want to see you graduate and stuff. And I'm sure, like, your parents as well. I'm not actually. I don't
We can
know.
come on to
Yeah.
it. Come on to it.
So yeah, and then I explained apprenticeships to them because I started researching more
Yeah.
about it. I told them, look, do you want me to go university, have that debt to my name after 4 years, or do you want me to be debt free whilst earning?
You will sell it. Yeah.
I could potentially help you guys, take
Yeah,
the
yeah,
burden
yeah.
off you guys as well. And then they were like, okay, like obviously after like a few weeks they were open to the idea, and they were like, oh, are you looking into it now? I'm like, yeah, I'm looking into it. Started to apply to more apprenticeships. I was mainly focusing on accounting because there's not much like IB or like private equity apprenticeships.
Not front office anyway.
Yeah. Plus, I wasn't like after my Antin work experience, there was private equity. It was quite interesting. It was quite enjoyable, but I feel like that environment didn't suit me, and it was just my own preference, to be honest. And then I just started researching into like audit, seeing like the things you do in audit. I quite enjoy it because I love working with numbers, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, well, you already mentioned last section we had that gap year. You already mentioned like why, and a similar sort of situation to Sahil when it came to grades. I was the same. I was on the precipice of retaking, decided not to, and it's worked out. But I think it works out for everyone in the end, which is luckily just how life works. But after taking a gap year, what made you decide university was the right path for you over an apprenticeship?
Sahil touched on it a little bit. So I was quite dead set on IB.
Yeah.
And I'm still dead set on IB. I
Yeah.
want to go to the front office. I want to be where the action is,
Yeah.
you could say. And what I found, to be honest, and I think this is starting to change, very slowly but surely. But there was a lack thereof of front office apprenticeships,
Yeah.
and I think that's partly due to the nature of being in the front office. You're working, like right in the front lines of a firm, and perhaps it's quite high pressure, high stakes, etc. But that sort of deterred me slightly from going down the apprenticeship route. I still did try. I tried at UBS, Goldman Sachs.
UBS is front office. Which
Yeah,
is good.
UBS is front office, but
Try that Deutsche Bank as well.
Deutsche Bank as well.
Just wasn't meant to be.
No, it just wasn't meant to be. It
Yeah.
didn't really work out, and so it sort of just kept me on the track of university. And to be frank, at the end of year 13, that's when I did my Morgan Stanley Foundations in Finance work experience.
Yeah.
And that is a convertible work experience. So you can, as you mentioned, right at the start of the episode, I thankfully converted it into
Congrats.
a spring week. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's literally in 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. So that sort of gave me an incentive to stay on the route of going through university, and like Sahil's story of taking a gap year, I'm the first in my family to go to university. My mum didn't even get past GCSEs, to be honest. My dad got to A levels and then sort of due to family situations had to let go of it. So I'm the first in my family to even really consider higher education as a next step after GCSEs, A levels, etc. So for me, taking that gap year was very nerve-wracking, and to be very candid, I felt a lot of disappointment in myself after year 13 not being able to go straight into university. And my parents were hugely supportive of it because, like I mentioned, my dad, he's done extremely well for himself to be in recruitment for finance with no qualifications, no degree, etc. And he understood that I wanted to go into IB, so he was supportive of me, taking the step out to take the step back into the sort of the funnel of university, grad role, etc. afterwards.
Yeah.
But I felt a lot of disappointment in myself, and it was something that I had to get through, personally, and struggling with it. I knew I had to keep myself occupied, and I knew I had to do something after this year, because if I didn't, that feeling would only bubble and it starts to get to you, to be honest. But no, it kept me in that funnel of wanting to do higher education, and that's when I sort of started to see, okay, I'm gonna do higher education. I know degree apprenticeships hasn't worked out for me. Let me see what I'm gonna do, because at that time I knew econ's probably not gonna work out for me. I didn't think I could do it for 3 years, to be honest. So I started to look into politics. I started to speak to people in the industry who hadn't gone through the traditional finance route. Loads of people had done like PPE, politics, philosophy and economics, history, geography, etc. and seen how they've gone through their sort of career path. And it's interesting. You guys were actually at an event where we had a speaker who's the head of risk.
Head of risk reporting.
Yeah, head of risk reporting at Morgan Stanley, and she spoke to us about how don't be afraid to switch paths. Take a career change. And for me, it was so low stakes. Just switching what degree discipline I wanted to do, but I wasn't fearful of that change.
I think at the time it seems like a big thing.
Yeah.
When looking back, it's like a minor thing.
Yeah, it's minuscule. And I think anyone who's on this path, because it's so easy to look upwards and see so many successful people and think they've had such a perfect journey, when in fact it's never the case for anyone to have such a perfect journey. So I stayed on uni because I knew I had to do something, and thankfully it's worked out.
Good.
Yeah, no, great. That's a really interesting response. Then, a question I wanted to ask now that you guys are, of course, you're in university, so you're in your apprenticeship. Could you talk more about how is it learning on the job? How is it balancing your studies and then with yourself? I'll stick with you for that then.
Yeah, of course. I'm gonna be quite honest. I haven't really experienced balancing work and studies at the same time yet, because I've had a period where I'm just studying.
Right.
Now I'm at a period where I'm just working.
Busy season? Is it still busy season now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
just tailing off, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so my next study session, or when my next exams is in August.
Yeah.
So I'm not studying till July.
So I think a better question then, what does a day or week look like for you? I think it's a good time to ask that because, as you said, you're primarily working. So what does it look like for you?
So because I'm under the wing of my senior, we always put out a to-do list for the week. And I'd say, okay, I'll do this task, I'll do this. Obviously, I'm not going to mention what I'm going to do.
No, of course, of course.
But yeah, so it's just mainly having to go through that task list. And then usually we have catch-up calls, so internal catch-up calls, and then client catch-up calls. So after every internal catch-up call, there's always going to be something different. I'm always going to be assigned a different task.
Okay.
And if I'm still working on a task, I may ask to extend that deadline, because obviously you need to be honest, you need to be transparent. Otherwise, if you're quiet in the workplace, a lot of people say if you're quiet in the workplace, the manager's going to think that you're doing fine with the work, right? And then after the client catch-up calls, there'll be even more work because they'll want something and then we would want something as well. So yeah, it keeps changing every day, to be honest. I can't really give what a typical day looks like.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Every day is different. But overall, from January to now, it's been quite busy. It's been very hectic. The past few weeks, like I said, I've been finishing work very late because we're coming towards the close of busy season.
I think that's a misconception as well, because a lot of people think audit's 9 to 5. I mean, at least I did for a long time. A lot of people think the crazy hours lie in IB. But it's interesting to hear you say that you're doing those crazy hours because the work forces you to, in a way.
Yeah.
So it's a big misconception. For me, genuinely, personally, I'm there listen, I thought audit is like a 9 to 5 job. No offense, but I genuinely did think that. So it's interesting to hear you say that, and I think those hours can be applicable to any job.
Yeah.
Well.
That's the thing. Literally, it is a big misconception. But the only thing is, I haven't experienced outside of busy season, so I'm not really one to speak about it.
Yeah.
But during busy season, I did have my 9 to 5s at first.
Yeah.
But as it started to get to the tail end,
Got it.
literally hours were
Crunch
building
time.
up. The overtime was coming and all sorts.
Yeah.
It's quite draining, especially in the month of Ramadan.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh my
of
god,
course.
it was so hard balancing
But
worshipping and then also doing work.
Yeah.
But I did find a good how do I say it?
Balance.
That's it. Where obviously I'd be in the office, but I'd leave at 5:30, go home, break fast.
Yeah.
I'll log back on after iftar and then go Tarawih prayer.
Wow.
Log back on after Tarawih.
Yeah.
And then literally work until 2.
Well, at least now it gets better from here on out because busy season until next year, of course.
Yeah. It's much more relaxed now. Today I had a really relaxed day.
Sweet.
So.
Yeah, man. But then, Riyadh, what about yourself then? You, of course, you go to uni. You're balancing that with YAF. How's that? With, of course, applications as well. How's that going?
I would say the application season was a big crunch. There wasn't much time to do anything else other than apply, go to uni, and focus on YAF. But a lot of the viewers who are university students will be able to sympathise. And uni isn't as restricted as an apprenticeship. Sahil's forced to wake up at 7 o'clock. If I want to wake up at 10 o'clock, I can.
This is it. You know what I was saying? I actually have to go to my lectures, you know.
Yeah,
So when was the last time you went to a lecture?
You don't ask me that question. Don't ask me that question.
No, but I'm saying it like you know, my modules. So if I get like a 80% pass rate, an 80% result,
It's fine.
if my attendance is 70% or below, I don't pass the module.
Really?
Yeah.
See, my university isn't as restricted. So if I want to go to a lecture, it's up to me really. I mean, they record it as well. That's a really bad cycle to get stuck into.
Have you been to a lecture in 2025?
Yes, I've been to.
Oh,
a lecture.
okay.
That's
Have you, Noman?
I have. Of course I have. Of course I
I think
have.
you're projected. No, but see, my lectures aren't recorded. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's
so I
it.
can't catch up.
Yeah, but no, university there's a lot on yourself. So it's, what I'd say has given me a very good skill of time management. More specifically, balancing all the different responsibilities that I have, and like partly another reason why I took a gap year is because I wanted to study in London, because I have responsibilities of my family as an eldest son, you know, looking after my grandparents, my siblings, etc. So I balanced that on top of running a social mobility organisation, which is a lot goes into it behind the scenes that a lot of people probably don't know about,
Which we're going to get into.
yeah. And then also being a university student, you know, it's full-time university is what, 25, 26 weeks, something like that, about half of the year.
Yeah.
But it's about 8 hours a week, which isn't too crazy. But then I work part-time as well too.
Your uni's 8 hours a week.
Yeah,
I'm very jealous right now.
Are you?
Yeah. Sorry, carry on. I keep interrupting.
I'm jealous as well.
Yeah, and then I mean, obviously there's the study that you have to do outside of that, but it's a lot more on me rather than like for example with Sahil, it's set out for him what he needs to do. I mean, there's still obviously aspects of he controls his own day, but for me it's a lot of self-motivation, and I mean I'm able to do it, thankfully.
But it's tough sometimes.
Yeah, I'm able to wake up, you know, before 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Before 9 o'clock as well.
Okay.
Before 9 o'clock, I should say that.
Yeah.
People are going to think I wake up at 11 o'clock.
At least I get a weekend.
Yeah, that's the thing. I work part-time. So I've got 5 days of running YAF, going to university, looking after my family, and then I work 2 days on the weekend. So for me, I'd say there's less of a mental rest in terms of...
At the same time, it's good to be busy though, right? I don't mind as a devil's workshop. Yeah.
I love being busy. I think I've mentioned that to the both of you.
Yeah.
I feel like if I stop, then
I don't feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
I think we all feel the
exactly
same way, right?
Yeah,
We say that.
100%.
We always feel like we could be doing
So,
more.
yeah, sometimes it's nice to take a little break. I mean, like me and Sahil have gone on holiday together. And
You
just-
travel
Yeah,
bears, you
it's-
lot. Yeah, you travel a
Yeah,
lot.
but I'll take my laptop with me to do YAF work.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that.
Harsh realities.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But when you're so passionate about something, it doesn't feel like work, and that's something that a lot of people say.
Yeah.
But I'd feel like there's a
At times, you know, when like near deadline or you set yourself a deadline, then
you feel
even
like,
if you're passionate about it, it still
Yeah.
feels like work.
Yeah.
But in the broader scale of things,
Yeah,
you
in
know
the
what I mean?
broader scheme.
Like traveling here today, that wasn't fun. But now that we're here, it's, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's
The passion,
fun. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly that, yeah.
Exactly. Glad you spoke about applications, because before we talk about YF, because that's the key part of this episode. Not that you guys aren't important, by the way, but application tips and experiences. Obviously, every student will feel it at some point, whether it's a grad, whether it's apprenticeships, internships during university, or whatever else it might be. So, I'm going to ask it to both of you, but in different ways. So, Sahil, to you. When you were applying to apprenticeships in your gap year, what was the biggest challenge in applying for those roles, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, I know Riyadh's going to say this one as well, but I'm going to say high view interviews.
Oh, yeah.
High view interviews are so difficult and they're so easy to catch you out.
Yeah.
I remember my first high view interview was with Grant Thornton.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen a high view interview for you. I'm like, oh, what? I've got a minute to prepare and I've got 2 minutes to answer. Here's me just like stuttering and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, nah, this is not good. I only had 2 takes as well. And I flopped 2 takes as well.
Oh, no.
And then, so I feel like with higher view interviews, I've learned myself like, okay, it's very quick and it's very time pressured. So what I need to do is prepare before even clicking record.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the question could be. Just have notes on hand.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the STAR method.
Yeah. Big time.
Just little things about yourself. Like, at the time I was in, we started Young Asians in Finance as well.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of Young Asian finance experience at that time, where I could just implement it into the high view interview. And then I also spoke about like me taking a gap year.
Yeah.
And how me like wanting an apprenticeship over university. So I brought in the religious aspect
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
which was a big thing. Obviously,
Yeah.
firms are now emphasizing like diversity, inclusion, and all sorts.
100%.
So I was able to implement that in my higher view interviews, and I was very surprised because when I done the BDO one wasn't just higher view. It was like a job simulation. Like you had to rank like what is the best thing that you do in this situation.
Oh, situational.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then they'll give you a question about like, oh, I don't know, I can't really remember.
I've done
but
so many of them.
that one there, like I thought I failed it. 2 days later, I got an email. Oh, you've been put onto our assessment center.
I'm so glad you said that, because you don't always know what a firm's looking for, so don't write it off. I know people who like thought they did bad in a higher view question, like question 1, and then they'll just like leave the rest. But you don't know what a firm's looking for.
I'll add on to that as well because I done KPMG and EY as well, right?
Yeah.
And I so with KPMG, I didn't get a response for a very long time.
Yeah.
Then they called me and were like, "Oh, you got into the assessment center in March," and then EY as well. At first, they emailed me saying I didn't get in. Then 2 weeks later, they emailed me, sorry, it was a mistake. And then I was like, okay, so when am I going to get put into the assessment center?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm getting put into the assessment center in like July. And I'm like, it's too late, man.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, I was actually happy with BDO.
Good.
After doing the assessment center, coming here into the office for the interview.
Oh, so it was in person?
Yeah.
Very cool.
That was a good experience because other interviews I had were through Zoom. And honestly, I don't like doing Zoom interviews.
No body language.
Exactly,
You can't bounce off. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was a phenomenal experience. I'm happy with BDO. Their emphasis on diversity, inclusion, and how they also emphasize like a lot of grad roles and school leaver roles, apprenticeships. So they have about like 600 intakes every year.
Wow.
Actually, all around the UK. So they put they invest a lot into young people. That's why.
It's great to see.
Yeah, and I've seen it myself. Like they're investing a lot into me with the people around me. Like my manager was a graduate. My assistant manager was a graduate as well. My senior's a school leaver, apprentice like me as well. She's qualified this year. Yeah. Like I'm learning from young people as well who are in the same boat as me.
Yeah.
And it does help a lot because they understand me, I understand them, and that's much it.
Well, flipping the same question to you, Riyadh. Obviously, apprenticeships is not your bag. Internships is. I imagine higher view was a challenge in of itself when you were applying. But what other things? What sort of other challenges you faced? How did you overcome them?
I'd say I'd mix my challenge and advice together.
Okay.
So I'd say one of the biggest things that myself quite early on and also other people might find is that they feel as though they don't have experience, and that is just completely not true. Because if you work a part-time job, if you volunteer, at your local like faith centre or with YAF as well, if you want
quick plug.
Every experience has given you a skill or something to talk about, and I think that's something that a lot of people discredit when they're going through the application process. They feel as though I don't really know what to talk about. This question doesn't even apply to me. 100%. Talk about like my part-time job. I've learned so much about the real world from working part-time from year 11 onwards. But also, like Sahil said, speaking about things like YAF in his interviews, etc. All those experiences culminate to make you who you are. And I think early on in the application process it's less about you as a person per se, and because a lot of it is automated now, unfortunately, but it's more so just ticking the right boxes, and that's easy if you know what you're doing. And if you want to know what you're doing, you need to reach out to people. You need to reach out to people who are in the positions that you want to go into, using resources like LinkedIn or social media, etc. You see a lot of people on TikTok now as well talking about their careers and stuff like that. Reaching out to people who have gone through the process, ask them, how can I nail these early parts of the application process, like the online assessment, just even your CV, etc. How to brush up on that. But once you've got that down, it's all about you. It's all about you as a person. Are you likable? Can you speak about yourself? Can you advocate for yourself properly? And if you can, I promise you'll fly through it, through every application that you do, because everyone's got something to talk about themselves. Everyone's got their own story to sell. It's really just about, are you willing to advocate for yourself?
Yeah. And
are you willing to put yourself out there?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, even for myself now, right now, like how you mentioned how high views are a big issue. That used to be a big issue for me, and I've got this one story. I'm guessing that's why you're laughing at me. It was I did this high for BlackRock for their spring week, and I just realized I messed it. So I just
Oh my dear, I forgot about that
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
so for some reason I just said it, and then I just withdrew my application. But yeah, no, but regrets happen like that. And I guess kind of on that note, then, what would you do differently if you could like maybe go back in time? What would you change about your approach to applications? So I'll start with you.
I'm gonna be honest, nothing. I don't regret anything.
Mhm.
Like, I'm happy where I am at the moment, and the things that I've done,
Yeah.
it's brought me to this position.
You know, we get that answer
Like-
so much, and I'm
Yeah.
pleased for you. I'm pleased for
Like-
you. Yeah.
Imagine if I didn't flop that Grant Thornton
Yeah.
high view, I would have never reflected upon myself
Yeah.
like that, and then
We'd never be in this room.
exactly.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I don't regret anything.
That's good.
Especially like even in like my past life, I don't regret anything because it's made me who I am right now.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all I can say. Nice and short.
Yeah. Nah, cold.
And then
You know I'm gonna echo that. As well.
Yeah. That's
okay.
good. I'm glad.
I don't regret anything.
Very good.
Doing bad on my A levels led to me starting YAF, led to me meeting you, led to me meeting so many other people.
Yeah.
And it's put me here. It's put me, doing a spring at MS. For every failure, everything that you go through is like I said before. It makes you who you are. It's part of your story.
Very cool.
Every failure is like a success. That's something.
Damn, that's good.
How I see it
Yeah.
as.
No, exactly.
Wait, did you write that quote down?
Yeah.
Nah, that just
To
came
be
into
fair, I
my
saw
mind.
something similar online. It was like
Nah, that's
what-
my quote, man.
No, not that quote. Something else. It was like if you knew you were 10 failures away from success, imagine how quick you tried to fail. Right?
Yes.
Exactly.
It's like that one meme, when you're digging for the diamond.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's so close to it.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know we were gonna get into brain rot on the podcast. I'm cutting that out.
Why?
Nah, come on, I
No, I'm
did it,
joking. I'm joking. Right. Okay.
I got the audience laughing. Oh man.
Right. Anyway, back to right. God, I can't believe you said that. Cool. So, throughout the episode, you lot have talked about YF. You've talked about when you started it, why you started it, etc. A little bit, and how it's helped, as you said, in your applications for you both. So, for those of us who don't know, who are unfortunate enough to not know, can you give us a brief sort of description of what YAF is? And then Riyadh, for you, actually, Sarah, do you want to give the description? Then Riyadh, for you, what inspired you to start?
Yeah, of course. So, Young Asians in Finance, in short, is a not-for-profit social mobility organisation which helps age 16 to 21 students through mentorship, career opportunities, resources, events, and sport. We have a lot of networking events as well, and that's pretty much it. In short, we bridge the gap between students not knowing about what finance is in like secondary school and sixth form to now knowing it after like pre-university.
Yeah, amazing. So, Riyadh, what inspired you to start Young Asians in Finance then?
Like you mentioned at the start, we're all about connecting aspiration with opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think, first of all, in this DEI space, in this social mobility space, there's that preconception that there's no aspiration in underprivileged students. There 100% is. And I've found the most entrepreneurial, the most talented people I know are from the blocks. They're students who no one in their family's gone to university. They haven't even considered university, but they're amazing. I know a guy who I live in South London.
Yeah.
I know a guy who started up a drinks business and it's flown. He's got a grant from the University of Greenwich now. It's amazing. He's done so well for himself. He's in so many shops across South London now. But for me, why I started Young Asians in Finance is when I took that gap year, when I was at the beginning of taking that gap year, there was two things I knew I had to do. The first was I couldn't come out of my gap year just with better grades. I knew I had to, line my skill set with a lot more things. And that's when I thought, okay, let me look for a organization that helps students who are Asian in finance. It's very niche, and I went to look for something that fit my niche. And I was, astounded to find nothing that fit that description.
Yeah.
And that's when it sort of clicked to me. If there's nothing, helping young Asian students in the UK who want to go into finance, let me start it. And there was a big sort of internal battle with myself thinking, I'm a student, can I help other students? But I came to realize very quickly that I can't discourage myself from trying.
Yeah.
And I started up the LinkedIn page. We started on LinkedIn. So I started up a LinkedIn page, and I was just cold messaging people.
Yeah.
This is what YF is. We want to help students. We want to create a newsletter. We want to do webinars. We want to do mentorship. And I'd say about 80% of people just ignored me on LinkedIn to begin with, because it was a long cold message. And that was probably the reason.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we were sharing like our first cold messages, and you were like, "Why would you reply to it?" Like 7 paragraphs.
I wouldn't reply to it
Never in a
myself.
million years.
No,
Never in a
exactly,
million years.
But then slowly people started to get involved, and then within a month or two, there was 200 followers. There was people interested in it, and that's when it occurred to me that there was a want and a need for what YAF does in the UK that people hadn't realised there was a want and need for. And from then it's just flown. We've mentored over 80 students now in the last year and a half. We've accessed 2,800 students across all 3 social media platforms in terms of followers and membership. Our newsletter our publications that we post on LinkedIn have amassed over 750,000 impressions on LinkedIn alone. We've accessed students across the UK, and we've made a big impact, I'd like to say. Just yesterday I had a student message me. He's got a degree apprenticeship offer at Goldman Sachs, I believe it was, and that honestly made my day. We've got a mentee behind the camera as well who's doing so well with her mentor, and these sorts of things are things that I wish I had when I was in year 12 and year 13, which unfortunately I didn't. And I think it is so impactful to see someone who comes from a similar background to you doing things that you do, because ultimately it encourages you, and it validates to you that this path isn't closed for you, and you can genuinely access a career in finance. You can make it, and that's really what we're just trying to do here at YF.
100%. Yeah. Well, but then kind of sticking with you, I know you've kind of mentioned this in your response right now, but then how do you really bridge that gap between aspiration and opportunity? Because how does that really help the students then?
So like Sahil mentioned, we have 4 key areas to our organization. We do mentorship, so we connect students who are either in a degree apprenticeship or university students with students who are pre-university, that being year 12, year 13, and it's a very informal type of mentorship where we expect students build quite a nice bond with the university students or apprentices, and they help them in many ways, with application help, with just general career guidance, with academic guidance. We've had one of our mentors last year. She's studied maths at LSE, and she gave free tutoring to her mentee.
Amazing.
That is usually so expensive to access maths mentoring from a Russell Group, let alone LSE. Russell Group student is usually really expensive, but she gave it out of the kindness of her heart, and that student's doing fantastically for herself now. Another way we do it is through our publications as well and our resources. We post we call it the YAF Times.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't get copyrighted, but I don't think it should.
Touchy subject.
Sorry.
That's all good.
The YAF Times, where we talk about business, finance, economics, etc. And we, dull it down for students in a way that is easy for students who are in year 12, even before that year 11, to understand what's going on in macro markets, emerging markets, etc. Just around the world, essentially. We do sports as well. We dried off in winter because no one wants to go for a run in winter, apparently. But now that the weather's looking much better, hopefully our run club will start back up soon. I think I need it, to be honest. I packed on the winter weight, unfortunately, and the Ramadan weight as well.
Of course.
And then finally is through our events as well, our in-person events. We've hosted at Queen Mary's, we've hosted at the University of Warwick.
Leicester as well.
Yes, Leicester as well, LSE as well. So we've hosted across a number of universities, and we want to start getting into, secondary schools, colleges, sixth forms, to access that small niche of students who are still really early on in their career, but have that aspiration, and connect them with the opportunities that we advocate for and the opportunities that we have at YAF, but just outside of us as well.
100%. So, Sahil, obviously, Young Asians in Finance is a social media organisation. You're there to help young Asians trying to get into elite financial services, but also other financial sort of roles that are out there. In my opinion, there's a role for everyone in finance. That's how broad it is. But in your opinion, what are some of the biggest barriers young Asians actually face when trying to enter finance specifically? And what are firms on a wider scale doing to kind of combat that?
Oh, um, a lot of things that like young Asians face is that they think, obviously there is underrepresentation,
Yeah.
but they have this like thinking that, oh, I'm not gonna get in, so I'm not gonna apply because I'm Asian, right?
Sad. Yeah.
And it is sad because like there was that underrepresentation. Not saying there's no more underrepresentation, there still is, but
Yeah.
it's reduced a lot.
Which is good. Yeah.
So that's one thing that they face, in which like they're not even going for it. So how are they even gonna get that role?
Yeah.
Now with a lot of firms, you see nowadays they're promoting a lot of like diversity, inclusion. I know a lot of firms are doing programs like to do with like Black Heritage Month, or
Yeah.
they're even doing like Asian programs as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quite good. And not forces, but it attracts those students that think they're not going to get into that role because there's other people better than them.
Yeah.
I'd want to add to what Sahil is saying as well. A lot of me and him, he's got accountants in his family. My dad works as recruitment for finance, but a lot of first gen, second gen, third gen immigrants coming from Asian ethnic backgrounds don't know people who are in finance, and that's massively unfortunate because I see a lot of nurturing of passion and interest in things come from visibility and seeing people who are doing things like you. And like Sahil said, first of all, there's just that unwillingness to apply, maybe because they think that they won't get it, but there's also that just not knowing that opportunity is out there for you. Like you said, there's definitely a career for a job for everyone in finance. 100%. Whatever skill set you have, whatever background you have, there's something for you in finance. And that's partly what we're trying to fix with our mentorship program, but also with the events where we bring out professionals from different financial backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, different Asian ethnic backgrounds, to increase the amount of visibility there is around successful Asian professionals. And that's another big thing. Like Sahil was briefly touching on as well, so that links to what Sahil was briefly touching on as well, about there being a lack there of perhaps of Asian professionals in really successful high up roles. And trying to combat that. How do we combat that? There's many ways that we can, but I think really and truly what we have to begin doing is advocating for Asians to start claiming these roles for ourselves. And it's massive.
Investing more in early careers.
Exactly, investing into early careers, because it's fantastic for us to train up, people who are in the middle of their careers and get them into those roles, those managing roles, etc. But how we're going to make the lasting change is focusing on the young people and encouraging young people to understand and see that those roles are 100% within their line of sight. They're attainable for them. And
I think it's important because like sometimes when I was growing up, even in films, I always, every episode I pipe on about this, but it's like how the lens of cinema really helped me to understand what finance was in a way. And I never saw like a person who looked like me. You know what I mean? And that's unfortunately, especially I think like 10, 20 years ago, this was the case in real life as well. They were like, oh, how can I aspire for something when that guy, none of them look like me? It is changing, but also on the flip side of that, sometimes firms do use diversity as a buzzword. I know it's a techie subject, but we've got to talk about it. Sometimes they just do it for the sake of it, right? And I think it's important to say, not to just say that you're doing diversity, but actually do something about it. And on episode 1, when we had our first industry roundtable, the guest said a lot about how you don't really know about the diversity that a firm is doing until you're actually part of it. So I think that the onus is on the firms themselves to actually,
100%.
Actually pursue it. But also I think it goes back to kind of, you don't want to have like groupthink. You know what I mean? You don't want to have people all from the same background, like all the
diversity of thought.
Exactly, diversity of thought, exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's about idea creation and generation. If you're bringing a problem to the same group of people, they're all going to probably say the same answer. So at the end of the day, it works out better for the firms, and that's why diversity will continue to always be such an important factor. So it's been great to hear about young Asians in finance, genuinely, and I look forward to partnering more. We've done so much stuff in the past, and obviously that's how we got in touch, and I hope you guys grow more as we do as well, and you've supported us behind the scenes as well. I mean, that group chat that we're in is notorious for the amount of brainstorming that we do in there. So last question for this section: how can students get involved with YF? I think you lot can tag team that question if you want, or one of you can chat to that middle camera and talk directly to the students that listen to our podcast.
Of course. I can start. So we've got a lot of events coming up planned at the moment. I'd say one way to get involved is firstly join our WhatsApp community, because that's the first line of communication of when events are coming out. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram, TikTok as well. TikTok you can learn a lot from, because we do street interviews. They're quite informal, but you can learn a lot from them. We do like these slide pages where you can find out like what opportunities are out there. And then just be active, proactive within the community, because you can connect with another student, year 12 or year 13, and they often put out opportunities in the chat that we don't even know about. So just through Young Asians in Finance itself, the chat, you can find out about more opportunities, which are not coming from us, but also from people within the community. I'll let Riyadh add on a bit more as well.
Yeah, I'd say in terms of getting involved with YAF, we're rejigging our ambassador program, and that will be open to everyone, as long as you bring the passion and the energy to ambassadorize and shout about YAF everywhere you go, in your personal platforms and in your schools, in your communities, etc. That's one way you can get involved. We have our yearly mentorship program, which is a little bit more selective, but again, that's another way to get deeply involved with YAF and be a part of our community. Those usually are shouted out on our LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and other platforms around September, October, and then places go out in November, December. But as well as that, we're always posting different opportunities, whether that's to become a journalist with us, whether that's to join our marketing team, whether that's to join the operations team as well, on our LinkedIn primarily, to be honest. So definitely follow our LinkedIn if you want to get involved. We're always answering our messages on LinkedIn. You can message YF directly, or you can message us directly, connect with us, and reach out to us. And there's a place for everyone, as long as you bring that passion and drive.
100%. All the links for everything mentioned will be in the description below, and any questions, feel free to comment on the video or whatever, and message us as well, because I'm proud to be a mentor for Young Asians in Finance as well. Fortunately, Noman, you're not. You don't want to, obviously. You don't want to help out. That I'm joking.
He's a part of a special team.
Exactly. Which we'll hear more about in the future.
But yeah, generally, if you're interested in finance and you're within that age range, so 16 to 21, just get involved. You'll help yourself, then you can help other people at the same time. And I'm not saying this just because these both are signed right in front of me right now. But yeah, so the final part of the episode, we're going to talk about just a few more, your more individual plans and then tips for students. Now, only a few more questions, so don't worry. Now, where do you guys see yourself in the next 5 years? Sahil, I'll start with you.
Next 5 years, hopefully, inshallah, get my ACA
Go
qualification.
on. Yeah, love that.
I'd say progressing my role further in BDO. Starting from a trainee, potentially becoming to that like assistant manager role, because that's after your ACA qualification. And then that's just with my apprenticeship. Now, in terms of Young Asians in Finance, I know Riyadh's going to echo this as well, but I see us expanding the whole organisation, where we're not just focusing on finance, but also different sectors, law, engineering, etc. Potentially going a bit more global rather than just focusing on the UK.
That's big plans. I love it. Yeah.
If you don't think big or dream big, then how are you gonna get there?
Every industry needs something like you guys. Every industry. Young Asians in law, as you said, Young Asians in medicine, engineering.
We're copywriting that though.
So.
Nobody
again, you bring it up again. Okay.
Put salt on their wounds, man.
It's all good. Riyadh, to you as well.
Yeah. For myself, hopefully in the next 2 years, I would have graduated from my degree, and hopefully I'll be starting a grad role at Morgan Stanley. Hopefully I can progress the spring into a summer.
So you're
and
dropping a
into
firm
grad
name
role.
as well. Okay.
Yeah, let's see. I hope. Honestly, MS has been amazing to me, so I don't see my career anywhere else. But
you never know.
Yeah, I never know. Exactly. You just don't know what's going to happen in life. Aside from that, hopefully I'll be working in investment banking, flying out all across the world, working crazy hours, but making a big impact.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I want to do, IB. So I can be on those headlines and making that huge impact. Aside from that, with YAF, I truly hope to see us access more students all the way across the UK, whereby our mentorship program is something that is known everywhere across the UK in schools, to everyone. I want YAF really to become let's say maybe not a household name in 5 years, although that's ambitious.
Yeah.
But for YAF to be a name that every student knows about and every student knows is a resource that is there for them.
Yeah. Great answers. Well, unfortunately, we're coming on to the end of the episode, and there's 3 questions we ask every guest, no matter the professional or accomplished students like yourselves, or aspiring students as well. At the same time, now these are questions that we like to get different answers to, and that's because they really, I think, summarize a good episode as well. So, but no pressure, of course. So keep it brief, but also succinct and obviously holistic at the same time. And I'll kick things off. So looking back on both your journeys so far, we'll start with you, Riyadh. What are you most proud of?
I would say I'm most proud of picking up from my failure, or what I deemed to be failure at the time. Picking up after year 13 and not letting it get to me. Continuing on my journey and building something like YAF, which has helped to impact so many students, not just myself. It's something that I think I don't credit myself enough for, but I'm extremely proud of picking up from it.
I'd say it's my religion.
Yeah.
A couple of years back, I wasn't very religious.
Yeah.
I was quite lost, didn't know what was going on. But I picked it up with a couple of friends, researched a lot about Islam, and I feel like I'm way more closer to Islam than
That's amazing,
before.
man.
And it's a fundamental factor in my life. Like, I feel like Islam has allowed me to get these opportunities.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, and then if you could give your younger self some advice, what would that be then? So.
Oh, I feel like I'm echoing from before.
No, but I mean, it's real. Yeah, go for it.
Like, you should have done what you done, innit? Like, you don't know what you done. Now I'm here.
Yeah. So
There's
again,
not
back
much
to
I
that
can say.
no regrets thing.
Yeah, like,
100%.
like, don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
Obviously, certain situations have regrets.
Yeah. But big
But,
picture.
like,
Big
yeah,
picture. Yeah.
like, just don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
Like, whatever happens for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and you never know what's there to come.
Yeah.
No one knows the future.
Mm.
I didn't know I was going to be in audit 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you don't know where you're going to be in another 2 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah.
Riyadh?
For me, I'd say, again, I mean, me and Sahil have had similar journeys in terms of how we've coincided now. But I'd say for me, it would be, don't be scared to fail. Do not be scared to fail. And I say this to everyone that I meet that asks for advice or asks for me to reflect on my journey. Every failure teaches you something. Every failure gives you an opportunity, which a lot of people don't realise.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get bunged up on their failures and feel as though that's sort of the end of the road for them. But don't be scared to fail, because everything will work out if you keep trying. The journey ends when you let it. I'd say
Big
the
time.
journey ends when you let it. So
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah. And again, this final question, unfortunately, and I think you lot have both kind of answered it, but I'll give you another chance to like kind of articulate it. But what's the biggest takeaway you hope our listeners and viewers and followers and audience and whoever else get from your ongoing story? Again, Sal, you kick things off.
I guess it's once again, like, no regrets. That's like the main thing I'm saying, like, during this whole like session, this podcast. Just have no regrets, and like Riyadh said, don't be scared to fail. Like I said, failure could be your success. Like, for example, let me give a good example of my Deloitte final interview.
Yeah.
I failed that. Didn't get into Deloitte, and it was quite disheartening. But it picked me back up, and I got the feedback that I needed, and I worked myself to do better in my next interviews, which was BDO, and flourished. And
Of
now
course.
I'm here.
Yeah. No, amazing.
But yeah, literally, don't have any regrets. Don't be scared to fail.
For me, it would be with everything that I've said today and with everything that I've spoken about in terms of my journey and starting YAF as well. It would be to understand that your story is personal to you, and it makes you who you are really. And tying back to what Sahil said, to not have regrets on the failures and the successes that you have, but also what I've said, and it's to not be scared to fail and understand that every bump in your journey, every slow period, every high, every low, ultimately makes you who you are. And that's what people invest in. That's what people, whether that is for your career, whether it's your interviewer, whether it's a friend, whether it's someone that you're trying to connect with, that's what they, you know, sympathize with and understand. It's you, and building on that story is really what I think every student here should be working on.
What amazing, and what a way to finish it. That's why we always like to ask those 3 questions. Lads, it has been a genuine pleasure to have you on the podcast. In some of our early episodes as well, after this relaunch, as I've said earlier on, you guys have been instrumental to our relaunch, but also to our success, and it's been great to, you know, get to know you and continue to get to know you. Anything you want to add?
No, it's just...
we don't want to add anything, yeah? Okay.
No, it's just... I mean, even on a personal level, it's been...
Of course.
I know it seems like we're never going to see each other, but it's been great, of course, meeting you guys, getting to know you guys on the social aspect, then this professional aspect as well.
The motives have been great.
Yeah.
100%. But listen, unfortunately, that is the end of the episode. And for our listeners and viewers, we hope you enjoyed that episode as much as we did. So if you are watching us on YouTube, but for some reason you haven't subscribed yet, then be sure to do so, so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads or regular medium form / short form uploads as well. So make sure to hit that button at the bottom of your screen. But if you're listening to us, you can follow us on there on an audio platform as well. You can leave us a comment on either platform and a rating too on audio platforms. But of course, our social media platforms and accounts are in the bios of all of our long form videos and audio platforms, so be sure to chat to us and shout us on there, because you can see our events, you can see our hiring posts, and you can see the interns and the team that are behind the scenes. Even today, shout out to Varsha, Amina, and the YF team marketing specialist Ahnaf as well, who are behind the scenes helping us out. So I had to give them a shout out. So yeah, thank you to everyone involved, and yeah, stay tuned. See you again for another episode of the Smart Money Show.